live stream. We unveil the trailer for our next big game project. Mr. T shows you a simple way to harness the serious math behind Bezier curves. Connor wraps up his Turbo tutorial series with a look at some of his favorite Scratch add-ons. And Ben's Time Traveler series is back with a look at the Nintendo Wii, the game console that got the whole world moving. All this and more today on the Chromeworks Club live stream. Hey, and welcome back to the Chromeworks studio. I'm Andrew Tomek, your technology teacher, back with another wonderful live stream with all sorts of great stuff here. So we've just wrapped up our Minecraft Tower Defense coding tutorial series. What a marathon that was. We went to 6 parts on this one, and today in the final episode we are going to tackle the Ender Dragon. I'm going to talk a little bit later about some of the interesting math that we had to learn in order to finish this project. We were animating the Ender Dragon's pathway and decided to use Bezier curves, which Mr. Tomek is going to tell you about in a little bit. But so today's episode is all about Bezier curves, which is just a fancy way of saying how to define curves using math, using a very simple math formula. Well, not very simple, very complex actually. But we're going to implement it in a really simple way using a custom block. So all the really hard work will be done for you. We'll be talking all about that in a minute. First of all, I am super excited to be unveiling what we're going to be working on for the next 3 or 4 weeks, which is going to be a brand new Chromeworks game and tutorial series. Now, this one was put together by Ben, my co-op student. Ben's actually with us this morning. Good morning, Ben.
Good morning.
So Ben has been working through much of his co-op project on this labor of love. Ben's a big Nintendo fan, and we're about to unveil to you the big game that he's been working on up until now. How much time do you think you put into this project, Ben?
Quite a lot, maybe over 20 hours, I think. Quite a lot to build the game.
Yeah, and you learned a lot about coding along the way, I'm sure. Anyway, I have played this project. We're gonna let you we're gonna leave you in suspense for another minute longer until we show you the trailer. But anyway, I've played this game and it's fantastic, very playable. It's a 2-player game, and it's a remake of a beloved Nintendo classic. So without further ado, here is our latest game project. Yes, it's Super Smash Brothers. Ben, tell us about Super Smash Brothers. This is a game that you were particularly ambitious to put together. Eh? Tell us about your history with this game.
I always played it with my sisters. I literally played it maybe a few weeks ago just to check it out again. It's a really fun game. It came out on tons of different consoles, and there's more versions of it coming out today.
Oh, really? Excellent. Yeah, one brand new version of it coming out. Yes. So you spent like hours and hours and hours playing this with your sisters?
Yeah, a lot of time.
Yeah.
My cousins.
And your cousins. Are you good at it?
I don't know. I'm not so good at this version. My sisters can destroy me in this one. But the real one, maybe.
The real one you're pretty good at. What was the character you normally played?
Link. I preferred Link.
Okay, he had some extra. What were his? Does every character have powers in this game? Is that the way that it works?
They all have different move sets. So some people will be able to like shoot things. Some people can have other little unique things. Not as much in my game as I would make things really really complicated.
Right.
But yeah, they all have different stuff, I guess.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for that, Ben. So we have some other guests with us here in the Chromeworks studio over on Discord. Um, and if you are over on YouTube and you want to shout out from Mr. T, please say hi. A Big Genius is with us today. He's been with us the last few weeks. Good morning, A Big Genius. If you are on the YouTube chat, just drop us a little hello and I'll give you a shout out. We're especially interested if you let us know your age and what city or country you're from, just so we can get a sense of what our audience is like. We won't ask any more personal information, just that little bit of info would be helpful. Meanwhile, over in the Chromeworks studio, we have Chris from England, from London, England, who hasn't been with us for quite a while. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning.
Good morning. So nice to see you again. Chris has been doing some other more sophisticated coding, just like a lot of the kids in our program. They start off with Scratch and then move on to Python and other stuff. What have you been working on, Chris?
I've been making this game called Tether, where it's basically a ball. You are a ball of destruction. You swing it all around and try and destroy all the enemy balls.
A ball of destruction. Wow, that sounds great. What language are you coding it in, Chris?
JavaScript.
In
but I've done most things at the moment in JavaScript.
In JavaScript. Well, let us know when you're done this project. Even though it's not a Scratch project, I'd love to show it on the stream. So do let us know when you're done that, Chris. And meanwhile, we're joined also by Gamer Davey from Ottawa. Good morning, Davey. And by Kendra from Rockland, just outside of Ottawa. Good morning, Kendra.
Hi.
Hi, Kendra. And we're joined also by Kian from Ottawa. Good morning, Kian.
Morning.
Kian's one of our oldest and best fans. I think you've been with us since day one, haven't you, Kian? Or pretty close to it anyway.
Been here since
yeah, for a long time.
last March.
Yeah, last March. Wow. Or March 2020, actually, yeah. And meanwhile, over in Florida, Thane, Retro Gamers, with us. Good morning, Thane.
Good morning, Mr. G.
How are things going over in your world?
Pretty good.
Good. So Thane wasn't able to do a Minecraft mod review for us this week, but next week we're hoping you'll be back. We want to hear a little bit more about the 1.17 update, huh?
Yeah, I just had a lot of camp, but today, I'll still have some camp next week, but not as much camp. So I'm probably gonna make a video. I usually make all my videos on Thursday.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to seeing a little bit more about Minecraft 1.17. So let us know when that's ready. Okay, so we got lots lined up for today. As I was saying before, let's get over to my other screen here. Let's shrink me. So today's features project, as is often the case, is kind of related to what we were doing in our main tutorial of the week. So at 11 o'clock, we'll be releasing part 6 of Minecraft Tower Defense, the final climactic conclusion of our game where the Ender Dragon comes out. You can find all the links for that down in the file description if you're interested. But one of the pieces of technology we were using here is something that Jeffrey borrowed from another user, but he wanted the Ender Dragon to fly in a realistic way, so he was looking for ways to do that using Bezier curves. Now this is a math concept that's quite complicated, but we found a project by a Scratch user that had already done all the complicated math, and Jeffrey modified that and did something really cool. So Mr. Tomac is going to tell you all about it right now. Let's go right to him. In the final part of our Minecraft Tower Defense tutorial series, we wanted the Ender Dragon who was flying across the screen to fly in an arc instead of in a straight line. Now, there are different ways to fake arcs and curved shapes using coding commands in Scratch, but we thought we'd show you a particularly sophisticated way that uses something called Bezier curves. Now, this is something that goes way back to the 1950s and 60s. The inventor of Bezier curves is a fellow who, not surprisingly, is named Pierre Bezier. He was a French engineer for the company Renault, and he was designing these beautiful Renault cars with lovely curves in them and was trying to figure out a mathematical way to describe the shape of the curves in his designs that perfectly matched that shape and always maintained its shape no matter how big it was zoomed or how close you zoomed into it. So he came up with a formula which is way too complicated for us to explain here, but you can see the formula right here. So using this math, you can design some fairly fancy looking curves. Now, this technology is all over the place. It's used in so many graphic design applications that it would make your head spin. But you'll see in Photoshop, for example, when you have when you draw a pathway from between 2 points and you want to try and manipulate it, you actually use these little handles that you grab that are based on this Bezier curve technology, and you slide them around to change the shape of an object. Even Scratch has Bezier curves in it. You can see here that if you draw a line and then try and reshape it with its reshape tool, if you click anywhere in the middle of the line, you'll suddenly have these two handles that will allow you to use Bezier technology to reshape and redesign the curvature between the different points on a shape. So Bezier technology is everywhere, and we really owe a lot to it if we do any kind of computer animation or computer drawing that involves curves. So we're going to be using this technology. As I said here, it's far too complicated for us to actually code it, but that doesn't mean we can't take advantage of it. So my son Jeffrey, who put together Minecraft Tower Defense, he used as a starting point this file here, which was by a coder named Ray Tracing on Scratch. Let me show that to you right now. All right, so here's the 4-point Bezier curve code that Ray Tracing put together. He basically wrote a Scratch version of this very complex formula. You can see it enacted here in one of the biggest pieces of code I have ever seen in a Scratch project. Check this out. So very, very complex, and I wouldn't expect you guys to, we're still not at the end of it. I wouldn't expect you guys to actually code this yourselves, but as is the case with most things in Scratch, you don't have to code everything yourself in order to make some really cool stuff. So I'm going to show you guys today how to use this technology to create curves. Let's have a look at how this program works. It's actually quite elegant. There's no code at all in these 4 points. They've got point 2, point 3, and point 4, all of which have no code in them at all. The only code is in this cat sprite, which has all of this complex math in it. And it's basically looking at the position of these 4 points and then using math to connect them using a blue line. So the important dots here are the blue ones, which determine the start and the end point of your shape. Now, these green points are control points which you can use to change the shape of your point. So if I want this curve to be shallower on this end, I can bring this dot over this way, and you can see that the way that I move this influences the shape of the underlying curve. And I can do the same thing with this control point here. And by manipulating my start and end points and manipulating these control points, I can simulate almost any shape that I want to. So here's an example here. Now this code will just draw a line between these 2 points for you here, which is fine for certain purposes. Like you can certainly use these Bezier curves in graphic design projects. So you can use a custom block, and I'm showing it to you right here, to set up a curve like this any way that you want to. The idea is you can use this code to just reposition these objects until you have exactly the kind of curve you're looking for, and then enter those numbers into the custom block here. So I'm going to do this really quickly. I'll just do a quick fast forward. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to go to point 1. I'm going to figure out its XY coordinates based on the readout here, and I'm going to enter those into the curve here. So this first one is minus 211 minus 134. And I'm going to just whip through this quickly and enter the rest of the information right now. Okay, so I've entered the 8 numbers that are contained in these 4 different points here, and now I can duplicate this curve here. So I'm going to go back to the main code here. Here's where I've drawn it. Right now this shape is based on the X position, the Y position of those dots, but I'm going to disconnect that and just plug in these raw numbers here. Now to reset our screen here, I'm going to do an erase all, which is one of our pen tools. I'm going to hide these guys. And now I'm going to run the code again, and we're going to see that it's going to draw a line that is shaped exactly like the shape that we did before. So you can draw these curves just by dragging the control points around, and then once you like your curve, you can keep track of those numbers and then use those again later in your projects. So that's perfect for drawing shapes, but we also want to be able to do animation with this. I want to have a character actually move along this curve from one spot to another, as we did with the dragon. Now we're going to have to modify this code a little bit to make that happen, and Jeffrey's already gone ahead and done the heavy lifting for you. I'm going to share a file in the description down below, and I'll also share it in the chat for anyone watching this live, and that is going to contain a modified version of this code where we have an extra variable in here called progress. So here's the blank project here, and you can see that there's one extra variable, and so that's a number from 0 to 1 that shows how far along the process of the curve we are in drawing this. So let's go ahead and take those numbers from the other project. I'm just going to take this Bezier curve that we've already filled in, and I'm going to drag it into my backpack so that I can bring it over to the other project. Let's pull it out of my backpack here. So this is the older version of the code that does not have that variable in it, but I can just take these numbers and enter them manually into here. And now I'll go ahead and trash this original block, which we don't need anymore. And so now we're running this code here just by repeating 100 times. We got a variable here called progress that we set up. We set it up at 0 at the beginning, and we're going to repeat 100 times, and each time we're going to change it by 0.01. So after 100 iterations, that progress variable is going to be at 1. So let's hide our character for now, and you can see that when I click the green flag, instead of drawing the shape all at once, it's going to draw it a little bit at a time until we get to the end. And wherever that progress number is basically how far along the curve we're going to get. So if I only do this 50 times, for example, it's only going to draw half the curve. Or if I do 75, it's going to do 75% of the curve. There you go. So all we have to do now is attach the movement of our character to this shape, and it's already happening here because under our defined Bezier, we're actually sending it to an XY coordinate. So what we really have to do here is just make this cat become visible. Let's change this repeat loop back to 100. And there we go. Now our cat is beautifully following that path that we've described here. We can, of course, get rid of this pen tool now, which we don't need anymore. Okay, so I've removed my pen commands from my code now, and all I have left is my Bezier curve and the variable that starts at 0 and progressively gets higher until it gets to 1. And you can see when I click the green flag here, now if you do have some pen code on your screen here, if you've got pen scribble marks, you might want to go erase all to remove all of that. You also want to make sure your pen is up so that it's no longer drawing while we're doing this, and that will clean everything up for you. Now when I click the green flag, you can see that my guy perfectly follows this code and does a really lovely curve. Let's try to design a different curve, and we'll just do something similar. So I'm going to go back to my original Bezier code, my original Bezier curve block here. I've messed it up. So let's just hit a refresh here just to load the original code. All right, so when I run the project, now I can design a totally different curve. Let's try something even wackier looking if possible. Let's try dragging this one down below and this one way over here, perhaps. Just trying to generate the most interesting looking curve that I can come up with. Okay, so there's an interesting little curve. Let's go grab the numbers for that, and we will place them into our new block here. All right, so we're ready to test out this curve. You might have noticed that my point 1 is actually on the right here, so our object is going to animate from the right to the left this time. Let's have one last look at this shape here. And let's go over to our other project and we'll max that out. And you can see that in the code here that I've entered the numbers that we created for that last curve, and I've reinstated the pen code just so we can compare this shape perfectly to the other one. So let's max this out here, and let's click the green flag and watch him draw this shape. How close is that to the original curve that we drew? Well, if I go back here, you can see it's identical. So we've perfectly duplicated that curve in a way that works every single time, just by entering 8 numbers into this little script here. So that's a handy little tool that you can use in all kinds of video game projects. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you can do with this. You can put a few variables into this and create some really interesting art projects with this as well. You can use it for animation and all kinds of stuff. So hope you guys enjoyed that, and let's see what you can make. So I've taken the project that I just showed you guys online, and I've kind of adapted a little bit. So this is a new version of the project. You can see I added a fancy background. And so this is a merge of the original code that I'm trying to remember the user's name again, that Ray Tracing put together. But inside here, there's also the new curve that code that Jeffrey added with the added variable. It actually turns out to be quite complicated. It took us a few tries to maneuver all these this very complicated block of code around to get everything aligned properly and have it all nested properly. It actually turns out to be a real headache. So so this project even has a little explanation in it. And so the idea is the original code is still working. Let me click the green flag here. It'll give you a little tutorial here. And so you can see there's a sample curve here, and then the cat is following it. Now, when I adjust this curve around, the cat's not going to follow it, because we actually have to manually add those numbers to the code. You can't do it automatically because you want to be able to add it to other projects. So basically you fill in this block, get the numbers set up, and it actually displays the variables here. So every time I move one of these control handles around, you can see the numbers update on the top. And so you can go into the code at that point and actually, so go into the blue cat, which has the modified version of the code, and just enter your new numbers into this spot here to match any curve that you want to. So I packaged it all together. You saw when I was doing it in the video, I had to fast forward, but I was basically going back and forth between the two projects, looking at the X and Y coordinates of all those little points. So this saves you the trouble of doing that and lets you build one of these custom blocks very, very quickly just by referring to those numbers up at the top of the screen. Now, I mentioned in the tutorial that there's some really cool art applications of this. Not so much this animation version, but the original version that ray tracing did, where you're drawing with a pen on the screen. It got me thinking, we don't have to put a fixed number into these spots here. We could fill in any of these blanks here with a variable if we wanted to. So let's go have a look at that version of the project. I've also shared the location of that in the chat for Discord and on YouTube as well. So actually, I don't think I've sent the I've copied the Bezier Art. I'm going to send that to my YouTube viewers right now. Bezier Art. There you go. So anyone who's following along can look at that now. And again, you'll find it in the file description if you want to. So this is basically the same code. I've added a black background here for artistic purposes. And we got our 4 dots here. And what I've done is as I showed you before, these dots were empty, but I've actually gone ahead and animated them. So inside each one of them, I have them start in the middle, then every one of them is pointing off in a different direction towards the corners of the screen, and they're just moving and bouncing off the screen, and every 100 times they do that, they turn a little bit, and then they go back and repeat that movement and bounce again. So let me show you just how these dots are going to be moving. So they move out and bounce across the screen like that. Very simple. So now if we attach those lines to these objects and actually have them draw out Bezier curves, let me show you that. So I'm going to go back to my Curve Maker program here, and I'm going to attach this code here. And again, it's just, the code is just referring to the XY coordinates of these dots. And I also have it right now, I've got it erasing everything, just constantly erasing so that we can only see one line on the screen at a time. Let's actually, we're going to hide those dots now and just see the curve. Well, actually, let me show you once with the dots in place. So here we go. You can see that these curves being drawn between the 2 dots, right? Okay, so now let's make the dots disappear. We'll just hide them. And now we've got this shape being developed here that looks really cool. All right, but they really come to life here when we stop deleting it every once in a while. So instead of wait 0 seconds here, I'm going to do a wait 10 seconds here. And now we're going to let this thing draw itself out over a series of iterations. Now watch what this looks like. Very cool, huh? Very neat. Now just to add one more twist to it, we're going to go to our pen tool and we're going to go change pen color. Let's say just by 1. You can play with this number if you want to. And now let's see what we come up with. Oh, that didn't work. Hold it. Change pen color by 1. Oh.
Every 10 seconds.
Oh, yeah, it's waiting 10 seconds. So I shouldn't be doing that. Actually, so I can do the change color inside the other loop and then the wait 10 seconds here. And now it'll erase itself every 10 seconds, but the color will change constantly. Thanks for that little bit of help there, Chris. And there we go. Now we've got something cool happening on the screen here. So you can have this continue to draw itself and just get more and more complex as it goes along, or as I've done here, you can have it refresh itself every couple of seconds. I think once it gets too complicated, you lose a little bit of the elegance of it. So you can play around with its delay time. For example, we can go 1 second here. And now it'll just draw a little bit and then refresh itself. Reminds me of some of these screensavers that I've seen way back from the early days of Windows. Funny Animator Jim's with us today over on YouTube. Good morning, Jim. Nice to see you again. He says that looks beautiful, and I agree. Yeah. And he says he saw a similar version of the project recently, but he hasn't sent us a link. So if you send us that link, Jim, I'll show that in a second as well. All right, so you can play around with this. I've just kind of randomly picked what these dots would be doing, but you can make these dots do almost anything you want. For example, if we take the rotation out of a couple of these dots, or change the rotation, you'll get a totally different kind of shape coming out of these. And I can try taking the rotation and making it higher, for example. Let's see what 90 degrees looks like in a couple of these. I would probably design this if I was going to be doing this as a demonstration. You might want to design this with slider variables so that you can actually slide it and manipulate it on the fly as you're going along here. That would look kind of cool as well. So I would love to see what kind of remixes you guys can do with this project. If you would like to create a Bezier Art project of your own, please share it with me. Just send me the link over on info@chromeworks.ca, and I will run the best ones on my stream. So, what else do I have to show you today? So that's Bezier Art. I also we've got a little bit of work more to show you from our co-op students. So our co-op students are wrapping up their work again. The quadmester is over, and in fact the school year is over. So this week we're saying goodbye to Connor, who has been producing some really fantastic work for us. His sort of signature piece here has been these turbo tutorials that he's been doing for us, but he's done a lot of other work as well. So this is his last ever turbo tutorial. It's a look at the Scratch add-ons and the cool stuff that you can do by manipulating the Scratch code using different web resources. We were looking at turbowarp.org, which is a really great website for modifying Scratch. And starting last week, we also looked at the Scratch Add-ons Chrome extension, which does a lot of the same stuff that TurboWarp does, but actually does it right inside Scratch, so you can see the benefits right working within Scratch instead of having to go to a different environment to see them. So let's have a look at Connor's final piece for ChromeWorks, which is his last look at this Chrome add-on.
Hey, I'm Connor, a co-op student at ChromeWorks, and today I'll be showing you some of my favorite Scratch add-ons. These add-ons are very simplistic, but are very useful. Now, some of my favorite features I've already explained in other videos, like the hex color picker, the sprite folders, and onion skinning, so you can go check those out. But in this video, I'm going to show you new add-ons. A really useful one that I like is the block switching. So if you have a if block, you can right click and change it to an if else, so you can just switch it to a related block. Same with wait till, you can right click and change it to repeat until. So this add-on just lets you switch blocks to related blocks if needed. I like using the progress bar add-on. It just lets you see the progress of when you're loading a project from your computer, or when you save your project, the progress bar will also show up. A useful one is confirm sprite deletion. When you're going to delete a sprite, it gives you a message confirming that you want to delete the sprite, so you don't accidentally just delete a sprite and lose your work. Just a fun add-on here, customizable block colors, where you can change the colors of the different types of blocks. As you can see here, just like motion, you can change the color, looks, operations, variables. You can kind of change it to your liking. And you can change all this in the Scratch Add-ons tab, where you activate and turn off other add-ons. As you can see, on the top left, you can see the motion is now purple, but the actual motion blocks are not. It's only when you click and drag them onto the page here, then it'll show up purple. The last add-on I'll show you is the cat add-on, where all the events have the cat face on them with the cat ears, and all it really does is it just kind of has a cat face, and you can kind of play with the ears, and it follows your mouse around. It just kind of gives life to your code, so it's not just kind of plain and simple. That's it for this video. Keep in mind that using add-ons is all the same. To activate them, you just go to the extension and you're just turning on and off the switch, turning on which ones you want, turning off the ones you don't. And that'll be it. Make sure you go check out the other videos about the other tutorials and other add-ons. If you want more Scratch content, go check out the ChromeWorks YouTube channel, and that'll be it. Thanks.
Oops. Sorry. Thanks, Connor. It was a pleasure having you, and we were really grateful to have you as a co-op student this quadmester. So this is the Scratch Add-ons a website where you can actually install the add-on, and from there you can get to it from your from the top bar in Chrome. We gave you a little explanation about how to do that last week. A nice little addition, and I just love the fact that it actually manipulates Scratch right inside the environment. The deletion confirmation window, I tell you, that alone is worth the price of admission for this. Working in classrooms, I cannot tell you the number of times students have accidentally hit that trash can when they clicked on a sprite. It's just way too easy to do. It's a little bit of a design flaw, I think, in Scratch. So it's nice to have and actually confirm that you want to do that, because generally speaking, you don't want to delete things that easily, especially because Scratch doesn't have great support for undo. Okay, guys, so I mentioned that we're losing some of our co-op students, but some of them are sticking around as well. Ben has decided to volunteer with ChromeWorks for the course of the summer. Cam, who's been doing my video editing, is also going to continue volunteering with ChromeWorks. And Jeffrey, my son, who worked on Minecraft Tower Defense and is hard at work at some other projects, he's going to keep working with us through the summer too. So we've got lots of great content lined up for the summer, and we're really excited about that. I will be taking a couple of weeks off, but we're going to keep a steady flow of content going with all our co-op students working hard and our volunteers now as well. And I'm hoping to see some more content out of our ChromeWorks members as well, like Thane, who's been producing Minecraft content for us. And we have some other students lined up who are also going to start creating stuff for us. So lots of great content coming up on this channel, guys. So one last tutorial for you today, and that is, well, not really a tutorial, a little feature here. Ben has come up with part 7 of his Time Traveler series, where he looks at consoles from eras past. So this week he's got another one lined up, and next week he'll be back with a look at consoles from the future. So we're excited about that. Here is the latest segment of Time Traveler.
Welcome back to episode 7 of Time Travelers, where today we're covering our last console for the series. But don't worry, I do have a special episode planned for next week. Anyway, today we're going all the way back to 2006, when the first version of the Nintendo Wii was released. So let's start with a song that hopefully sums up everyone's mood now that it's almost summer. There's so many other songs I would play, but today we're here to talk about the Wii, so let's get into it.
The average person sits for 8 hours a day. Get up and get playing with Wii. Get the Wii console, Wii Sports, and now Wii Sports Resort for $199.99.
Now, the Wii was marketed a little different from your average video game console. Instead of focusing towards one person and one gamer, shall we say, it instead focused on targeting towards families, which definitely paid off as they sold over 100 million consoles. Now, some of you might have seen the Wii U, which came out in 2012, but today we're talking about the classic original Wii, which allowed players to use motion control games and play video games while staying active. My favorite of all the games was Wii Sports, which allowed me to destroy my sisters at tons of sports all in one game while in the comfort of my living room in my PJs. Some other really fun games included Mario Kart, Super Mario Tennis, which was one of my favorites, New Super Mario Bros. And one of the best, if not the best game of all time, Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Oops, my bad. That's gameplay from Chromeworks' Smash Bros., which is releasing next week. Here's footage from the real Smash Bros. Now, although these games aren't as graphic intensive as many games nowadays, they are certainly fun and show you the lighthearted theme of the week. It just goes to show that hardware isn't everything. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you next time.
Well, thank you for that report, Ben. So Ben will be back next week. He will be our featured tutorial next week with Super Smash Brothers. So we're really excited and very happy to be having somebody else talking for a while after. I think we've probably got about 8 hours of Minecraft tower defense footage out there. I just saw some text from some other viewers here. The Big Thinker has typed in here. He says, "Hi, I'm 9. I want to be a cool coding YouTuber like you." Well, come on over and join us, Big Thinker, and we would love to have you create something. Why don't you start off by just creating some kind of a cool project and doing a little video tutorial for us. It doesn't have to be huge, maybe just 5 minutes on how to do something fun in Scratch. If you want to submit a video to us, you can get onto our channel and maybe launch your own channel at some point as well. We're also joined here by Hyper Blueberry, who's a longtime Chromeworks user from here in Ottawa, and he's launched his own channel and has his own stuff going on there. And welcome to Hyper Blueberry. And Jaren Jackpot is back with us again. He thinks he says he teaches private coding lessons. Oh, cool, Jaren. Well, let us know a little bit more about that if you want. Okay, so I think we have run out of content for this week. Next week, as I said, we are back with lots more great stuff, including, Big Thinker says I do have a channel. Well, I'll send me a link and I'll check it out, and maybe we can talk about it on the stream next week. All right, guys, so that is all the content we have for this week. We'll be back next week with Super Smash Brothers and other cool tech tutorials. So looking forward to seeing you then. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.